The Man. The man came into town one autumn afternoon. He appeared at the end of a neighborhood boulevard that was lined with blazing red and orange trees. The man was economical in every way. He wasted no time. Walking down the center of that fall-stricken boulevard, the man had every action premeditated. The town was winding down. The sky was turning a dark shade of purple that signified one final warning before total darkness. The smell of various spices and burning wood danced around in the chilled air. The man continued, unseen and unheard despite his obvious presentation and position. Families were caught in their own unique frenzies. Children setting the dinner table, fathers and mothers burning their hands on boiling water or soothing a roused smoke alarm. Husbands and wives pouring red wine or watching the news. Rebellious adolescents were plotting their newest late-night escapade or begrudgingly helping cut onions for their own family dinners. Meanwhile, the man passed them right by. Every home a dollhouse, every soul within a new figurine for the man to play with. Wholesome and hearty meals were steaming hot as they entered the mouths of the neighborhood's residents. Butternut squash, mashed sweet potatoes, roasted turkey, white chicken chili, macaroni and cheese, creamy tomato soup, fresh-baked sourdough bread, and dozens of other dishes in their own unique combinations were devoured, each soul satiated. The man continued down the boulevard. He was not hateful in nature, but he was starving for the only thing that could keep him on the same plane as his prey. The families were loaded down with carbs, fats, and dairy. They were sluggish and useless after dinner. They recovered on couches, sofas, and recliners. The purple skies could no longer hold off the man who glided up and down the boulevard patiently. The exact second the last golden sliver of the sun slipped below the town's horizon was the exact second the man's cosmic shackles were released. He now stood in front of a door that the universe had told him was unlocked. The man opened the door with a smile, as if he knew his lover was on the other side. In a way, that was the case. Now wielding an unknown object, the man crossed into the world of mortals. He hovered around the corner and found the family in their living room. He knew the young daughter was upstairs in her bedroom and that she would survive. The others were not so lucky. A napping father, a drowsy mother, and a grouchy adolescent sat on a couch. An old dog sat at their feet. The dog had already been growling for a few minutes beforehand. The man caught them by surprise, though. The father never even woke up. The mother was only able to let out half a scream. The teenager tried to run. Everyone always tries to run. If only they knew it was simply their time, and that running was a useless act, a waste of time. Within seconds, a family disappeared off the boulevard, their skulls flattened by something untraceable. The surviving daughter lived on. She told the world of her family, and that she wouldn't stop until the killer was caught. Eventually, she would corrupt and give up on that helpless mission, as they all do. The authorities would never find any leads. They simply could never. it's not in their power. The town would rot from the inside out. Trust would be broken. Rumors would be spread. Hatred would be brewed off of imaginary gossip. Nothing would ever be the same for the sad old town. But that's just the way it goes. The man would continue on to the next town, and the next. I Saw an Angel Eat a Child by GeAlltidUpp. I saw her on my way to work. Had to stop in the middle of my stride to get a better look. At first, I thought it was just another stunt. A girl in costume, wings strapped to her back, standing on the roof of a 4-story office block. Maybe cosplay? Maybe some kind of promo? Her wings looked like painted glass, living church windows that reflected light sublimely as she flexed. I raised my phone, zoomed in, and my gut clenched. The hair, the profile, the way she leaned forward, head tilted, like she was about to cry. It was her, my ex, the one who'd fallen, the one whose broken body still snapped into my dreams at night. She walked toward the rooftop's edge. I froze. My chest locked, the same terror rushing back. Then she threw herself off, falling for a brief, dreadful moment, until the wings unfurled fully, real wings, catching the light, scattering gold and white feathers across the morning sky. She soared instead of falling. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped my phone. I followed her, eyes locked on her gliding shape above. She moved with certainty, circling, watching. I grabbed strangers by the sleeve. "Look! Do you see her? Tell me you see her!" They pulled away, muttering curses. Nobody looked up. Nobody cared. I stumbled across the park, heart pounding, and grabbed the arm of an old lady knitting on a bench. "Do you see her?" I demanded, jabbing a finger skyward. "The angel! She's right there!" The woman blinked up at me, timid and calm. Then she smiled faintly.
"No, dear, I don't see anything. But if you do, that makes me happy. I always knew angels were real."
She patted my hand gently, like I was a nervous child, and went back to her knitting. I ran after her for what must have been an hour. When I stopped to breathe, she landed on a rooftop or flew in circles. She didn't want me to lose her. It was exactly the kind of summer day she'd loved. I even saw dogs on the street, the breed she'd loved. I eventually reached a park crowded with families, kids on swings, parents chatting on benches, toddlers tumbling in the grass. She sang above it all. Perhaps this was what she wanted to show me, that she was happy, that I deserved to find someone else and have kids, despite the fact that she had refused to have any with me. There was a boy there who looked eerily like pictures of me as a child, a 10-year-old little ruffian. She saw him too, and then made eye contact with me, smiling, with the teeth of a predator. The angel dove. She plummeted like a hawk, wings slicing the air, and ripped the boy straight from his parents' arms. They screamed, begged for her to let go. Complete panic, but only for a moment. Then their faces smoothed over, blank and calm. "I think it'll rain later," the father murmured, frowning at the sky. The mother smiled absently. "Yes, probably." Above them, their son writhed and shrieked as the angel tore into him, tearing flesh, eating him alive. I felt every bite, like he was a voodoo doll of me. The pain was so intense that I fell to the ground and vomited. His legs kicked against empty air as we both struggled. Blood poured in heavy red streams, guts unraveling, splattering across the swings, the picnic blankets, even the shoulders of other children. And no one noticed. Parents kept sipping their coffee, checking their phones. Kids laughed, chasing balls through puddles of blood that weren't there for them. The angel herself was invisible, unhearable, her actions impossible for anyone else to perceive. I stared, choking on bile. The boy was finally dead. I slowly got up on trembling legs. My ex was covered in blood, chewing down on what remained of his face, a piece of sloppy flesh stripped from his skull. She winked at me, and I understood what was conveyed. She would return, eat another, and I would feel that as well, every bite. The angel soared impossibly high into the sky, overwhelmingly fast, impossible to track. The next day, I came back to the park with a rifle. I wasn't going to go through that torture again. If I'd been a better person, I might have claimed I was trying to save other kids. This was for proof. A winged corpse on the ground. A headline, fame, something to keep me from waking up in cold sweats, wondering if I'd imagined it all. As I set up my scope, the old lady shuffled closer, same floral dress, same knitting bag.
"Hope you see that glass-winged angel today,"
she said encouragingly. I kept my scope lowered. "I never told you what she tilted her head, smiled too wide.
"Oh, forgive me. I forget myself sometimes. I'm not real, after all."
Something staggered out from behind her. The boy. The one who'd been eaten. His chest crudely stitched, his ribs jutting through torn skin. And then the crowd came. Dozens of them, men and women and children, surrounding me. Their eyes gleamed faintly, like thin glass holding back a fire. "None of us are," said the man that had brushed me off yesterday.
"Except the angel,"
added the boy.
"She can feel and think. We're just here to help her."
I fired. One man's skull exploded. He collapsed, then rose again, smiling broader than before. I emptied the clip, but they kept advancing. Hands seized me, dragged me down, stuffed fabric into my mouth. I closed my eyes. They cut off my eyelids so that I would see the angel. She descended, my ex, my angel. Her golden hair whipped in the wind, her glowing eyes fixed on me, her shark's teeth bared. And in that instant, I remembered the balcony, my hands on her shoulders, the shove, her scream. That bitch had been taking pills so that she wouldn't get pregnant. She had been lying to me, letting me think she was on board with getting a baby, while secretly planning her escape to a women's shelter. She touched me gently at first, kissed my skin as the puppets undressed me. Then came the biting, her fangs sinking into my flesh. And I understood. This was her heaven. Running from the devil. An old truck came wailing through the autumn. The truck had once been white, but years in the rough had degraded the thing into an ugly gradient of browns. Now on the first asphalt in many long miles, the truck serpentined through the cursive country roads of some rolling land dotted by farms. Judd was the man behind the wheel, and he drove like the devil wasn't far behind. In his truck bed, a black tarp whipped in the wind. Judd was caught in a repetitious cycle, checking all his mirrors and then looking over his shoulder just to return and do it all again. There was a break in this routine when Judd looked to see his gas was running out. He pulled into the one and only station for miles in any direction. He had made good progress, so far. He'd put good distance between his present self and the man he became hours before. He figured he could relax a little. No one would be after him. Not yet. The truck sucked down the sweet fuel, while Judd scanned his surroundings regardless. He argued with himself that maybe it's best to keep his guard up. There was an old woman manning the till inside the station, some kind of farmer searching the aisles as well. The old woman stared at Judd in a continuous fashion that he didn't appreciate, but he figured it was benign. A rough hacking erupted just a few feet away, which sent a jolt of adrenaline through Judd. He was a young kid, anywhere from 17 to 22. The kid was at a pump, also filling up, but he was just stricken by a fit of some fierce nature. He coughed and sounded more like a grandfather than someone of his age. It was wet and stressful. Judd flinched at the harshness of each croak. The truck was satiated. Judd's gas pump clicked loud and did no favors for his racing heart. He needed water. He had to have it soon. He did not want to leave his truck unattended, though. Judd waited for the hacking kid to drive off and then ran inside to fetch water quickly. The old woman was in no hurry at all and wanted to know all about Judd. He pretended he didn't speak English to her so he could get back to the truck, and so she had nothing to offer later on. A quick walk around the truck proved to Judd he was ready to take off again, and that is what he did. Southwest. That's where he was headed. Judd knew following the farm roads to their termination and then hopping on old dirt service roads after that would get him deeply embedded in the nowhere that he needed to reach. Judd listened to the radio as he retreated for two reasons. One was to gauge how far out he was based on the buzzing of the signal, and the other was to see if he'd made the news. He listened to the rich and warm voices on the political talk shows, the financial hour, the weather updates, and the late-night satire segments. No breaking news from where he had come. Good. Judd had to turn off the radio eventually when, during the late-night satire show, one of the co-hosts kept having to break to cough. First, it was a moment of levity, then of annoyance, then concern. The same wet hacking he'd heard from the boy at the station. Eventually, both hosts were coughing and laughing until they were just coughing, and then the radio went off. The land was now soaked in uncaring dark, and Judd drove through it alone. The tarp flapped endlessly, a constant reminder. Judd noticed pain resurging in his leg, and he turned on his dome light to see blood seeping up through his jeans. He pulled over to assess. He had suspected it would become a problem. He'd gotten himself pretty good earlier. It was a considerably deep gash he had suffered from an overzealous stab, a moment of weakness. On the horizon was a string of lights an unknowable distance away. The road led Judd to them. It was a tiny town with no apparent name, just a few buildings, a bar, restaurant, gas station, post office, church, and another gas station. Not even a fast food place. Judd was getting hungry and growing weaker. He was hoping a simple drive-through could solve the issue, but his destination did not accommodate for such luxury. If he wanted food, he'd have to leave the truck waiting. He figured the bar would have a kitchen in a place like this. There was likely some factory out in the dark fields with workers that got off at an indecent hour, and they'd need beer and something fried. That's all Judd could fixate on as he drove through the town. Even his bleeding leg offered him little distraction from the idea of a warm meal. The truck sputtered in between some faded white lines outside the bar, and Judd collected himself as best he could. He tended to his throbbing leg and got it tidy enough. When Judd walked in, there was loud and intolerable music booming through damaged speakers. TVs were on, but the channels weren't working any good. There was a man asleep at the bar, and no one else. Pans were heard crashing to the floor off in the unseen kitchen. Judd took a seat and waited. Not long after, coughing could be heard coming closer. Out from the kitchen's double doors bursted a large, scruffy man who was gasping in between merciless hacking. The man made eye contact with Judd, who looked back at him with his eyes wide and helpless. No words were said. The man just leaned on the bar and coughed so hard that something in him faded away. A millisecond of stillness in the air before the man's legs gave out and his face smashed into the corner of a table. Judd screamed at him and tried to get him up and conscious. The man's face was partially caved in, his nose crushed and obscured behind a growing geyser of blood. The man was already dead somehow. Judd thought something in the man must have hemorrhaged or popped and killed him suddenly, but he didn't understand any of it. He noticed the sleeping man was unfazed from this racket, and Judd then put the pieces together. When Judd walked around to view the sleeping man's face, he saw a face of burst blood vessels and capillaries, with a continuous ropey string of blood dripping from every orifice. Before Judd could make sense of this scene, a constant honking from a car outside was fast approaching. He raced to the door just in time to see the honking sedan screech down the road and wrap around a telephone pole and spit the driver 40 feet out into the street. She had 1 or 2 coughs left in her as she died, looking like some spidery thing out there. Judd ran outside with a numbed mind. He looked at the carnage around him. In the distance, down a lonely alley, he could hear the echoing cough of another unlucky soul. Judd thought the country had been attacked by some foreign land, that all the negativity in the world had boiled over into a new era of warfare. As his body led him to the truck, his frenzied mind thought again and again when he would feel a scratch in his throat. The town was done. It had been ravaged by whatever invisible wave of misfortune had swept over it, or the countryside, or perhaps the country. Maybe even the world. The radio hosts from earlier were based in the very same city Judd was escaping from, and they had hacked all the same. Judd was confused why he had been spared for so long from whatever this sickness was. His day had been chaotic enough before this spontaneous plague, however, and he knew panic was never the response to crisis. He kept driving on in search of perfect nothing, now for 2 reasons. Plans unchanged, Judd continued southwest. By this point in the night, the moon had come out and shone its false light across the land, which had gradually flattened out. The trees grew further apart. Judd passed by occasional homes and barns. Their exteriors looked untouched by the spreading sickness, but What tragedy lay inside? What was happening to the world? Maybe some kind of gas that spreads through the air in random gusts. But Judd was never so lucky. He had stood in the same room and shared the same air as many who were gone now. Maybe it was some kind of aerial and fast-acting virus, and for whatever reason, Judd was immune to its wrath. The truck was a singular flickering candle in the dark country. Judd was alone with his thoughts and his actions. The tarp snapped relentlessly in the truck bed and reminded him of what he had done just hours before. Did it even matter anymore? Did he have to run? Maybe it'd be best to get to the place and then think about the state of the world. Just in case. Judd was afraid to look under that tarp now. He dreaded the truth and the finality that lay underneath. The confirmation of depravity he held within himself. The demonstration of free will he exercised with his hands and his troubled mind. This is what he had chosen to make of his life back in that moment of weakness. He looked at his bleeding leg and it was worse. Southwest. Just keep going, and all of the weight and all of the thoughts can be parsed through then. Deeper still into the night, the truck passed by an old cemetery, the kind that hadn't seen a new addition in generations. For some reason, on this night, there seemed to be multiple new additions being added. Someone had dug many holes for many bodies, but their trace was no more. Judd assumed whoever the digger was must have gone off somewhere else to die from the cough. Maybe they were immune too, and were in the process of burying the dead. There was nothing that suggested human progression for miles and miles beyond the cemetery, though. The truck rolled on. An overturned car was spotted unknown miles down the road. It lay upside down in a field of crops, the headlights now a brilliant ray beaming out into the vacuum of flat land. Judd got out and inspected the situation. A dead family, all bleeding viciously from their mouths and noses. The dad had coughed so hard his right eye was hanging by a thread, wetting his cheek before it dried up. Everyone was just a mess of mortal flesh and bone. It didn't make sense to look at, even to Judd's trained eye. Judd drove on and took nothing from the car. There was nothing to take. It later caught on fire, and Judd watched through his mirrors as the flame grew, knowing no one was coming to put it out. The inferno eventually disappeared into the distance. The country grew so desolate and remote that it was beginning to feel subterranean. No signs of life whatsoever, and there wouldn't be, even if there wasn't an ongoing calamity. Judd allowed his mind to wander some and thought of the big cities all around the world. He thought of his family he left behind, and even the family of the other side, and if they had caught the cough. He figured they were all gone now, a weight he couldn't really feel for some time. He drove on in the same direction, trying to remain impervious to the world. Unexplained shadows could be seen occasionally on the horizon or atop a distant mound, things moving around under the moonlight. Judd brushed it all off as hallucination from blood loss. He needed to sort his leg out. Judd began to wonder if he could sort his leg out without the help of a doctor, without medicine. Maybe he'd end up dying like his ancestors out in the sea of tall grass. Judd figured dying at this point would be most uneventful, given the state of everything. But something in him was afraid of it. He didn't want to slip away like all the others he'd seen coughing. He didn't want to join them, even though he had just contributed to their ranks mere hours ago. The tarp flapped in the wind. The truck drove on. hours more of unending night and a stubborn moon, Judd became suspicious. Why hadn't the sun rose? He had made it into a land of nothing, that was for sure. But he was hazy on where exactly it was he had intended to go. It was like some kind of automation within his person had put him on this path, and he had subconsciously credited himself as the conjurer of that idea. The truth was, Judd couldn't pinpoint on a map where he was or where he had been driving to in the long night. Southwest? That was all he really knew. Like a migratory bird, that's where he was told to go by a presence within him. Blood memory. So the truck continued on its way, and Judd noticed the gas was no longer burning off. There were no more lights and no more houses, just the lonesome road that no longer sported paint and was free of any signage. Just a road that was paved, but it was anyone's guess who or what had paved it. Maybe it just looked like what Judd assumed was a road. It felt like years on that thoroughfare before Judd started to drive by figures. They were shadowed and vague, people but not people. Judd could just tell. They weren't coughing, and they didn't look like they cared that the whole world had fallen ill. They looked into him even though he could not see any eyes. Through no communication but a strange transference of feeling, the figures beckoned Judd to stop driving and to get out of the vehicle. Judd kept the truck moving in the only direction he knew to go. The blood loss was getting to be unbearable. Judd could barely lift his leg to brake or hold his eyes open to drive. He was weak beyond measure, hands clammy and cold, arms shaking just from holding the steering wheel, profuse sweating from sitting in place. He hadn't had a meal in so long and hadn't enjoyed water since the gas station. Judd couldn't even place how long it had been since any of it. 10 hours or 10 generations. All that was certain was that the world was dead and night would not give. The moon hovered in the same place, taunting Judd with its pathetic reflection of the sun's inviting light. Somewhere else in the world was being baked in indefinite brightness, and Judd resented the sizzling corpses which decayed under that comforting warmth. Despite all of this rapid and dramatic change, Judd carried on, stuck in some stasis of following an objective. He just drove, and at some point, he never asked another question. It was a long, long time later, in this delirium of near eternity, when Judd finally broke the silence within himself and was ready. He now understood, in his own way, what he needed to do. He scanned the horizon one last time and saw there was no hope. No distant lights, no trees, not even grass. It was all just some flat surface now with the road running straight ahead. Maybe there was something southwest, but Judd wouldn't be the one to find it. Judd's red leg cracked and popped as he finally lifted it from the gas pedal and set it on the brake. The truck slowed and it slowed until it moved no more. Judd sat there looking out at the fake world, indifferent to everything. The silence of it all had grown infuriating. Judd didn't even care at this point if he got locked up or earned the death penalty. Those human concepts sounded comforting. Just to feel the warmth of another person, even if it was a sweaty man stepping on his back and cuffing his wrists. Instead of that, Judd got the endless black sea ahead and behind. He was positive he had driven so far that the past no longer existed. that all of that world behind him was gone forever and hiding in a fold of somewhere else, inaccessible. Even if he turned the truck around, he'd never find it again. Something else finally existed in this vacuum with Judd, but it was nothing to be desired. It was not something moving closer on the horizon, nor a shadowy figure emerging from the ground or anything else that could be escaped from. It was the tarp in the truck bed, the truth of what lay underneath. The mutilated body that was hastily wrapped up in that cheap tarping was now sitting upright. She was still obscured within the wrapping. Judd got out of the truck. He walked on the phony ground and around the vehicle so that he was standing in front of her reanimated body. The only separation between them was the tailgate and the thin layer of plastic around her. Judd spent a long while just looking at her obscured corpse, accepting that she was in there waiting. He finally thought about her. He thought about when they had first met. It was autumn then, too. He was a junior and she was a sophomore. It was cartoonishly idyllic. Those years were long in the past and hazy. If he tried to recall any specifics, it'd likely just be a creative liberty. He sat there, remembering all the years, all those cheesy lines they'd say to each other in confidence, the pet names, the late-night conversations that were likely transformative, but were now just vague noise. All of that meaning and the love they had once felt for each other. He remembered the sound of the knife as it snapped through her skin, and though it was so awful, he had to do it again and again. Why? He still didn't exactly know. He knew another woman came into his life, one that excited him and offered a newfound purpose, or so he thought. This woman could fix everything and bring Judd back to that perfect place, the place he was in when he first met his wife. It would be perfect, and he could truly be happy, but he'd have to do something about his wife. And so, in a final act of intimacy, Judd clung to his wife and bathed in her blood as the life slipped away from her. At the moment, it all felt so linear to Judd. After that moment, he had a mission. He's been on it ever since. And not once did he think about the other woman and their exciting new life. And not once did he think about his wife, who lay under the tarp. All he thought about was driving southwest. As he came and went from his rumination, he found himself still wondering why he did what he had done. He was struggling to understand what problem had been solved by murdering his first love. That's when he realized he was a spineless coward. He realized he was inept and arrogant, impulsive and childish. He realized he was a monster and a murderer. He realized he never deserved her in the first place. He realized that when he was stabbing her, he had stabbed himself with the same ferocity, and though he tried to ignore its severity, the knife had plunged deep into him and would be the death of him. He would die from his very own hand, which also took her life. With the last few minutes of energy Judd had, he opened the tailgate and crawled up into the truck bed to be with her. He took the knife he had used to kill them both and cut open the tarping. Ironically, he had taken great care to keep the blade from once again communicating with her. As he uncovered her, he did not know what to expect. she was dead, but for some reason she now wasn't. Or somehow her corpse had regained movement. He had to see her one last time and try to understand. He had forgotten about all else. He had forgotten the coughing plague that stole the world, and even forgot that he seemed to have escaped from that world altogether in this new, unfamiliar place. He just wanted to lift the plastic veil which contained her. She was revealed, but Judd did not expect what he saw. Inside the tarp was the skin of his wife, terribly altered. She looked like an animal had crawled inside of her. Her face was deformed and decomposed, her jaw unhinged and swaying. Her legs were some catastrophe of human feet with an ugly hooved interjection that jutted out in awful ways. Judd couldn't make sense of it. He never was meant to. The only thing unchanged were her eyes, which looked into his. The same unique hazel and the characteristic freckles in her irises. The same gaze that used to look back at him with pure comfort and love. They were the last thing Judd ever understood or took pleasure in. He was offered no explanation or warning. Within a moment immeasurable by time, Judd was devoured. All of him was consumed and digested before being returned to the universe, cleansed and new. Judd and his flaws were no more. The energy which made up his being was now dispersed and off to its next chapter. Wherever the world may be, the concept of Judd would never be a part of it again. And it would be a better world, if only by a little. Was a God, would you worship it? By SMHComix. Part 1 of his personal collection anthology. Throughout her life, Ronnie had heard that question, or a similar one, 4 times. The first time she heard it was when she was 4 years old, not yet going to school. Her mother was watching the television in the living room, and Ronnie had snuck out of her room to watch as well. It was late, and much past her bedtime, when she heard the question being asked to someone on the TV by a man with a very serious-sounding voice. It was an interview, 2 men sitting across a table from each other. One was plainly dressed, a simple brown jacket and blue button-up shirt, and black hair parted to the side. The other man was old, with snow-white hair, dressed in all black, aside from a white collar. The text at the bottom of the screen read, "Father James Prescott questions Ben Hampton on his atheistic views." No, I don't think I would. I mean, if this God were in control of everything, and still chose to permit the horrors of this world. The other man spoke before the TV was shut off. Ronnie looked up to see that she had been spotted, her mother standing over her with a stern look on her face. Ronnie's mother carried her up to her room and back to bed, and gently tucked her in. Ronnie's mother was a kind woman. The second time wouldn't be until she was 15. She had been attending Mass with her mother and her best friend, Laura. Her and Laura were being a bit too loud, making jokes and laughing, when they had caught the attention of Pastor Michael. After the service was over, Pastor Michael took the two girls into a side hallway in the church, just off of the exit with Ronnie's mother. He scolded the girls, asking them things like, "How dare you act that way in the house of the Lord?" Laura started yelling back at the pastor, saying she didn't even believe in God. The pastor looked confused and shocked, and then very angry. He began shouting at the top of his lungs, saying that there was definitive proof of God's existence, eventually screaming at them to get out. The car ride home was silent, with Ronnie's mother eventually breaking the silence. "Laura, if you knew for a fact that God was real, would you worship him?" Ronnie doesn't remember what Laura said. Other than that, her response was negative. This day marked the decline of Ronnie's faith in the church. The third time occurred when Ronnie was 19 and incredibly intoxicated at a party. She was a sophomore in college at the time, at some backwater state university. She was there with her friends, but after getting about 5 shots in and too many beers to care, she seemed to have lost track of them. She didn't care, though, as she was nice and warm and seeing the world in a much more fun state than it usually was. Across this living room, filled with young people, and flashing colored lights and blaring music, there was this man. Yes, for the sake of simplicity, we'll call it a man. The man stood there, with his pale white eyes trained on the poor girl, drooling only slightly. Ronnie, however, was far too gone to notice any of those details. What she saw standing there was a tall, handsome young man with curly brown hair staring at her, and she wasn't about to let that go to waste. She drunkenly stumbled her way over to the man and fell into his chest, half accidentally. The man caught her and smiled. His teeth were much too long for what he was pretending to be, but Ronnie didn't notice. "Hey, cutie, I saw you staring at me," Ronnie said, slurring her words. "Oh yeah, I was just thinking about how warm your skin must be on the inside." "What?" Ronnie said, not really recognizing the danger of what he said, but rather just asking out of confusion. "Don't worry about it. Your skin is completely safe on your body at the moment. They just wanted me to observe you for a little while." "What are you talking about?" Ronnie was starting to get more confused. "Don't worry about that either. Can I ask you a question, Ronnie?" Not worrying about how he knew her name, she nodded and smiled calmly. This pleased the man, so he smiled his long-toothed smile and said, "If you met a god, would you worship it?" It was at this point that Ronnie threw up all over herself and the man left. If only this memory wasn't lost to the intoxication, maybe Ronnie could have spared herself a lot of trouble. The fourth and final time came 2 months after Ronnie's mother's death. She had been murdered. Some bastard shot up her office building. Ronnie was only 25 at the time. In her grief, she tried many things to help ease the pain. She tried going back to church, and that only lasted about 2 weeks before she came to the conclusion that her mother's faith was not her own, and that hers was still rather lost. Maybe she would try again after she climbed out of this well of sorrow. Just maybe. She tried drinking her tears away, and that worked for about 3 days before the alcohol stopped numbing the pain and started making it harder. Finally, she discovered a support group. They met every Tuesday, and Ronnie found that being in the company of people who can at least partially understand her plight was the best thing for her right now. On her first day,
she met Sarah, the group's organizer, as well as Tim, Alondra, Piper, Freddie, and John. These were all people dealing with the grief of losing a loved one, except for John. John was a tall man who dressed in a very nice black suit every meeting. He pretended to be grieving the loss of his wife, whom he called Carla. He said they had been married for 10 years, but seemed to have forgotten to change his face from that handsome, wide-eyed young man with the mop of curly brown hair. No one questioned him, though. Each time he told his story, it was as if they fell into a trance. Everyone immediately fell into tears, and lots of, "Oh my God, John, I'm so sorry." Even Ronnie fell victim to his charms. He did fix the teeth, though, and John was convinced that is what sealed the deal on his performance. After a few more weeks of getting Ronnie to be wrapped around his finger, he made his move. He approached Ronnie after the conclusion of their meeting and did his best to look kind. "Ronnie, I had a question for you that had been burning in my mind for some time now." He spoke with the cadence of an older man, not remembering that his appearance didn't match it. "Go right ahead, John. I'm all ears," Ronnie answered, trying to be sweet to what she perceived as a grieving old gentleman. "Are you much of a church-goer?" "Not these days, no. I was when I was little, but I've gotten a little distant from Christianity." "Well, on Thursday, my church is having a brief little ceremony. I'd like to invite you." Feeling touched that the old man, racked with the pain of losing his wife, would invite her to such a thing, she accepted. Ronnie picked John up from his house, which wasn't really his, but the homeowners could no longer say otherwise, and they headed to John's church. It was a large building a few towns over, with the look of one of those old stone cathedrals. They had left at 7:30 p.m. and would be just in time for 8 o'clock Mass. It was dark, and snow littered the ground in sheets on the grass and large piles in the parking lot. John led her inside through the front entrance, down a few hallways, a few rights and lefts, until they finally made it to the chapel. The chapel is truly not a good place for Ronnie to be. John led her to a pew near the front, saying it was very important for her to get a good view. When Ronnie had first entered the chapel, there appeared to be no one else there. She figured they must have arrived early, but the very second she sat down, loud chattering began. She took in her surroundings as suddenly each and every pew was filled with people of all shapes and sizes. Of course, none of them were really people, but Ronnie did not know this. She couldn't make out what anyone was saying. It was all so loud, and there were so many people. Where did they all come from? Had they already been there? Wait, where am I? These questions raced through her mind, and she felt a hand on her shoulder. It was John, looking at her with what he thought was a reassuring smile. "Don't worry about all that. You need to pay attention." All at once, the talking stopped. Every person in the room was facing the front of the chapel, which held the altar. At the altar was something that Ronnie could not see, poor girl. What she saw was an old-looking man, wearing the vestments of a priest. His wrinkles were deep in his face, and his hair was all but gone. His posture was horrible, and his eyes were sunken in, but that didn't stop the yellow glow of them from shining outward. Ronnie felt scared. What Ronnie saw at the altar was not what was actually standing there. The poor girl is only human, and observing it directly is too much for a human brain, so it conjures false images. Luckily for you, I am willing to describe it to you, so that you may be spared attempting to view it yourself. It had 3 faces, each facing a different direction. The faces were mounted to a sphere of floating skin, muscle, meat, and bone. The bone stabbed through the skin in countless places, with muscles wrapped tightly around them, spilling what resembled innards onto the ground. The flesh underneath the tight skin wriggled and pulsated in a constant state of destroying itself to make room for more of itself. Each of the three faces were singing a different part of the same melody. Man's maker. Each of the three faces were vomiting blood and bits of flesh. It was simultaneously the size of a mountain and the size of an atom. Ronnie gazed at the supposed priest, and it gazed right back. His gaze felt like it was penetrating straight to Ronnie's soul, grasping it without her approval. It hurt. The priest opened its mouth, and an impossibly low rumble erupted from it. It sounded like thunder being caught and ripped apart by a giant, and Ronnie's nose began to bleed profusely. In the next moment, the rumble ceased instantly, and the priest was now somehow in the middle of a sermon at the altar. It spoke in a language that Ronnie didn't understand, but listening to the words somehow made Ronnie feel at peace. In the moment following that, Ronnie was alone in the church. The other people had disappeared, and even John was gone. The lights were out, and all Ronnie could see were two bright yellow lights at the altar. She moved towards them. She needed to reach out, to be in the glow of the lights. She didn't know why, she didn't care why. She needed the lights. The lights spoke.
If I were God, would you love me?
Ronnie felt her mouth move on its own, and she answered, "Yes."
If I were God, would you worship me?
"Yes," Ronnie answered again. Her body was answering on its own. It wasn't that she was being forced to say yes, but rather that her body knew what it needed to do. No need for Ronnie's input.
If I were God, would you do anything for me?
"Yes."
I am God.
"Yes."
Feed yourself to me.
"Yes." Ronnie slowly, but without hesitation, climbed into her god's mouth, and it closed its bloody maw. My wife died in her sleep, and I have no idea how. By ANovelStory. It's not just that she died. She decomposed. I woke up to her beautiful face, marred by bulbous swells and vacant eyes. I have woken up to that face countless times. I can't stand not waking up to it anymore. The pillow had residue on it when I moved her, when I cradled her. I swept her up from the mattress, pressing her cold skin to my chest. She was heavy, so heavy. I could carry the weight of her forever, but not of this agony, not of this grief, this torment. There was a soot, or something like it, darkening her face. My tears cleaned it away when they fell on her skin, like rivers in a burnt valley. I hoped her skin was glowing, as it always had, but it was just as discolored as the rest of her. It's the middle of the night. I've set her back down. I tucked her in. If you stand from far enough away, it looks like she's sleeping, like she'll wake up any minute. I'm trying to piece together what happened last night, but it's blurry. I came home from work. She had dinner made. She always did, despite how long she worked. She had it set on the table and was waiting for me to eat with her. I had a few drinks before I came to eat. We talked about our days. We hadn't been fighting as much lately. I couldn't tell if she had just given up or if she finally saw things my way and wanted to turn things around. I didn't care which it was then. Our house was finally peaceful. I'm standing in the doorway of our room. I'm watching her. I don't know what to do. I've cried for what's felt like hours. I've stared at her even longer, pretending she's still sleeping. Her hair still has its color, its blonde sheen that glowed when the sun would hit it. I could leave her until morning, resting. No one would know I had woken in the night. I could watch the sunrise on her hair. I could see it glow one last time. The time reads 6:04 a.m. The clock on her nightstand isn't moving. I don't understand what's going on. I know I'm not dreaming. I've banged my head into our wall. I punched our bed frame while I held her, and the wood cracked. My knuckles are swollen and still throbbing. This is a nightmare, but it's not a dream. The shadows in our house are strange. They're moving. Downstairs, light usually comes in through the window from the street lamps outside, but it's black. It looks like a void, and there's a humming noise coming from the darkness. Do I leave her there, by herself? Is her soul here? Is it at our bedside? I hope she can't see my pain. Or maybe I hope she can. She'd know for certain how much I love her then. She'd see it. I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. I didn't say it enough. I need to go downstairs. Something isn't right. There is light. It's not black. The house is just coated in the same thing on her face. It's like an ash, like when your fingers touch charcoal. Its residue is on the window, blocking the light. The kitchen clock says 00:36 a.m. There's symbols on the walls, circles. They have letters in them around the border. There's wings and 3 crosses inside the circle. It looks like someone ran their hand on the soot, coating everything to draw them. Hello? I call out. No one answers. Why does my house look like this? A fire? Maybe something electrical. I flip a light switch. Nothing. But the clocks work. Why do they work? Why are they different times? Why are they not times at all? I should check the breaker. I have to go to the basement. The humming is coming from the door to the stairs. Could she have been burned? Shocked? The bathroom light is on. It stung my eyes as I passed it to get to the stairs. There was a towel on the ground, but I don't remember doing that last night. How drunk did I get? I remember now, lingering on the towel I've used to clean myself so many times. She wanted to. She wanted to for the first time in a long time, but I couldn't again. I've watched too much, seen too much. I couldn't get into it, yet I still went to the bathroom after she fell asleep. The doorknob is rattling and the door is vibrating. The humming is loud down there. I wish I could wake her up and bring her down here with me. I'm scared. I can't do it. I'm going to go check on her. She's gone. She's not in the bed anymore. I checked under the covers. There's just the outline of that same black dust where her body was. Is she alive? No. She was cold. There's empty bottles of vodka on the floor. They weren't there before. Where is she? The stairs to the main floor have ashen footprints. I didn't notice them when I came up. She's alive. She has to be. I just heard a noise. It was loud, concussive. The symbols on the walls are glowing red now. The house is crimson. I'm back on the main floor. I walked past the bathroom again. The towel was still there, but it's red now, soaked. The basement door is open. Her footprints led to it. I have to go find her. I can't make sense of it. The basement is dark, yet the red light is also coming from it. It's glowing, but I can't see past the blackness. She's crying. I hear her down there, weeping. I'm coming. The humming is deafening, deep and low. It's shaking the soot from the walls. The black dust is falling in lines of transparent flakes. She's still crying, though. I can still hear her. The sound stopped. I'm in the basement. I can't see anything but red silhouettes of our furniture down here. Footsteps, skittering. They're shuffling fast behind me, now on the walls. Now I hear them on the ceiling. The red is getting brighter. I can see more. I see her silhouette. She's on the bar, surrounded by bottles of vodka. She's squatted down with her hands pressed on the bar in front of her. She looks like a sitting dog. Her head is tilted like she's curious about me. Addie? I shouldn't have spoke. She sprang off the bar like a cat. I could hear bottles smash. I can't see anything again. The breaker. I need to find the breaker. There's a ram's head in the corner. It's black, a shadow, but I can see it in the red light. A shadowed hand rose next to it, pointing with taloned fingers to the other corner. There's a goat's head in that corner. They're both still, observing. The goat-headed figure begins raising an arm as well. The footsteps ran behind me again. I need to find her. I need to get her out of here. I turn, looking for her. There's something scaled behind the bar. I can see the red reflecting off of them. There's an eye, too, like a fish's, staring at me. It's puking. It's all over the bar. The basement is flooding. I need to find her. The ram's head is gone. She's in the corner instead now. Clung to the ceiling upside down. Her head is hanging like it's dangling by a string, swaying as her mirrored eyes look at me. She screamed at me. Her mouth opened impossibly wide, and she screamed at me. How could you do this to me? I have to go. I can't get to her. I'm up to my waist in the puke now. I'm back upstairs. The symbols are everywhere now. There's a figure in my kitchen. The red is glowing around it. It has ram and goat horns. Its body is scaled. It stands on hooves. Its fur is spotted. There's a man's face on its groin with its eyes rolled back and its mouth gaping.
Be not afraid,
The figure said. Its voice was gargled and growling. I shouldn't have understood it. Skittering again, my wife has clung to its back now, hanging on like a scared child on a hunting spider. Be not afraid. No phrase is said more in the Bible. Could this be an angel? Ezekiel said that they have 4 faces. What were the 4 faces? I can't remember. What are you? I ask.
a messenger,
A messenger of what? What's happening to my wife?
a vision, futures, repentance its pain, through me, lust, gluttony.
My wife screamed again. Where is what we once had? Our 5-year anniversary. That's when she said that. I forgot it. I was too drunk. Why am I always drunk? Repentance. Okay, I say. I'll do anything.
The 4th cardinal, weighed the bile, forbid pestilence.
My wife lunged off the figure's back, running on 4 limbs. Her hands slapped the blackened ground. I heard her crash into the basement door. I followed her. The stairs are black again. I can see red reflecting in the flooding vomit. It smells like vodka. I see myself, countless of myself. Their eyes are black glass cylinders like bottle mouths. They kneel in the bile, scooping it into their mouths in a frenzy, drinking its foulness. They are all staring at me, my copies, consuming, ravenous. I step off of the stairs and into the fluid. They swim towards me. Their hands grab at my leg, many hands beneath the surface. Their mouths are open as they cling to me, letting the puke drift into their maws with each step I take. They hold me back from reaching the fourth corner of the basement, the south corner. They try to pull me under to drown me. I look up, and my wife is on the ceiling. She follows my slow progress, looking down on me with her neck backwards, smiling. It keeps me above the surface. A man is in the corner, the same face in the groin of the figure upstairs. His eyes are ablaze, surrounded by burnt sockets that weep pus and clear fluid. He drops as I meet him, submerging himself. I look down. I see the man's flaming eyes staring back at me in the clear, black bile. His mouth opened and the vomit whirlpooled into it. He spoke with unmoving lips as he swallowed. Thy gluttony consumed. The walls shake. My copies wail. They're spun into nothingness, evaporated. I turned around as the last of the water drained. The figure was there again. It raised a taloned finger to the ceiling. It spoke again. The ideals of the Mac. Observe the second consort. Forbid indulgence. I heard and saw the silhouette of my wife rushing up the stairs. I follow her. The light in the bathroom is still on, but now the door is shut. I can see the light shining in a line underneath the door. Fluid leaks onto the floor, sudsy and foaming. The light reflecting in it. It's so bright, I can't see my wife. I open the bathroom door, and there's a woman inside, naked, splayed on the toilet. She's running her hand across her body, raking her nails against her skin, drawing red lines of lust. She's rubbing soaps and oils onto and into her. Her hair is wet. She looks at me, longing. I could do it right now. Why couldn't I with my wife last night? Her ashen hand slammed the bathroom door shut. My wife's face was directly in front of mine. Tears streamed from her milky, clouded eyes. She screamed again. What do they all have that I don't? Her sob was terrible. Her swollen gray flesh bunched and her tears mixed with purge fluid gushing from her eyes and nose. It reeked. She always smelt so good. She is in so much pain. She's grabbing at her hair, wailing. She's pulling at her locks, her beautiful blonde locks, ripping them out. A growl rumbles from the basement, deep and rolling. I look to it, past my wife. There's two eyes staring at me, low to the ground. Haunched shoulders rise and fall behind them as it comes closer. My wife is smiling again. It startled me as I looked back. It's so large that it's splitting her rotten skin. Her teeth are yellow, her gums black. She hasn't stopped crying, but I haven't seen her smile like this in years. She's nodding slowly now, staring at me. I can hear nails scratch on the floor behind her. The growling is loud. My wife throws the bathroom door open. The growl erupts into a roar. A leopard pounces on the naked woman. I watch as it rips her apart. My wife cheers, screaming and clapping next to me, her smile brimming. She hops up and down. I can hear her fluid-filled feet squelching as they hit the floor over and over. The naked woman is screaming. She reaches for me to help, but I cannot. The leopard tears into her breast. I see clumps of fat leak out of it. It rears its head high, pulling apart threads of torn muscle. Blood sprays everywhere. It plunges its head into her groin, its teeth sinking in the folds. It tears her apart and looks at me, its crimson maw gaping to reveal her flesh. Blood stains the leopard's fur. Sinewed strands of flesh hang from its lips, stuck between hungry teeth. It speaks to me.
Thy lust consumed.
My wife pets the leopard. It purrs, nudging its head against her rotten thigh. She kneels down and kisses it, the blood of the woman staining her face. She rubs it in, pushes her fingers into her mouth to taste it. I need my wife back. This isn't my wife. She scampers off, tiptoeing like a sneaky child. The leopard bounds after her. I see the flame-eyed man emerge from the basement. They are all going upstairs. The house is shaking. I need to get to her. I race up the stairs. My wife is bowed on her knees in the bedroom. The figure has split apart again. They form a triangle with their arms. The ram, the fish, and the goat. She bows before them. Her forehead is pressed to the carpet. The leopard and the flame-eyed man walk into the triangle. The floor is cracking. The symbols on the walls are being carved into it. It glows like the others, but brighter. Streaks of light emanating from it illuminate the room. Fire erupts around the figures, growing high into twisting, scorching spires. The flames dance around the leopard and the man, covering them as they shift. Shadows cast about its body, retreating to reveal its new form. The man was covered in patterned pelt. His face was feline. I could see it clearly in the light, a leopard with glowing orange eyes. Its forehead bore the same symbol glowing on the walls and the floor. A long tail played in the fire. Feathered wings sprouted from its back. Their tips formed to match the flames around them. The wings are grand, imperial. This is an angel. God has come to save me, to save my wife. Can you save her? The angel's wings flapped. Flames billowed forth. I felt their heat. My wife was in them as she knelt. She's crying again.
Save her,
The angel says.
save thyself. Thou art beyond forgiveness. Grace garnered I offer. Commit to her, commit to me.
My wife stands sobbing. She walks into the fire, screaming as the flames touch her. The angel's clawed hand reaches. It beckons me. It wants me to walk through the fire. The bed is on fire. My wife crawls into it, bellowing.
Through thy devotion thou shalt bathe sin's corruption, cleanse in my flames, awake anew.
She's under the covers, burning. The clock reads 64:36 a.m. I walk into the fire. It consumes me. I feel my skin peel, blister, pop. Fluid weeps from me. My flesh chars. My eyes melt. All is black. I cannot find my way. I feel a soft paw against my back. It ushers me forward. I reach out, my hands raw. I feel the covers. I found the bed. The covers lift. The paw lays me down. I feel heat on my teeth. My lips are gone. Something tucks me in. I melt into the mattress. My flesh fuses with it. I'm dying. I will see her in heaven. This angel has saved her, saved me, saved us. Thank you, God. Wake up, dear, she says to me. She's alive. My wife is alive. The sun shines through the window. It highlights her blonde hair. Her skin is pure, clean. Her eyes twinkle. She's hovering over me in bed. She's alive. I wail. I bawl. I bring her to me. I squeeze her tight so that her confused words cannot escape. I can feel her heartbeat against my chest. She is warm again. I wish everyone could feel what it's like to touch the re-warmed skin of your loved one after touching it cold. She is light again, carrying part of herself with her own strength. It's as if I'm carrying a feather fallen from the angel's wings, a symbol of its grace. That's what she is. Grace. I have been graced. Our faces pulled apart. I saw her soul in her eyes again. It was a beauty made infinitely rich, for I now knew the poverty of its absence. She was whole again, my beautiful wife. I will never take a moment with her for granted again. I will love her eternally. Never has she been more beautiful, more divine. She is sacred. She is restored. The things I witnessed, those horrible things, she is restored. It was a nightmare, but it was not a dream. This morning, I went to fulfill my first oath. I went to the bar downstairs to dump my bottles down the drain. The basement smelt foul, like a vomited distillery. It has water damage up half of the drywall. When I came upstairs, there was soap, oil, and water all running out from under the bathroom door. I opened it and found blood and shed, yellow fur all over the toilet. I sent my wife out to get her hair done, her beautiful blonde hair. I wanted anything but for her to be gone, but I needed to clean. What if she remembered? I scoured the house. I found ash under our bed, deep in our carpet. There were smoke stains on the ceiling. The walls faintly showed the symbols in a slightly lighter shade. I scrubbed them all, then got in the shower. I have a brand now, where the paw touched me. A circle with letters around its borders. 2 wings and 3 crosses in its center. The heavenly symbol of the angel. When I first saw it, I remembered all my thoughts and all the sights from last night as if they were happening. I remembered glimpses, but now it was vivid. It was everything. The time is confused, like I'm in it at one moment and recalling it the next. But I can replay each step, each breath. The angel won't allow me to forget her like that. To forget the lessons he taught me, what I might lose. The angel has marked me. It reminds me to fulfill the oath I made to it. I will commit myself to my wife by committing myself to the angel. It reminds me with this mark of its absolving. I am grateful, holy angel, for your correction. You have brought my wife back to me, my beautiful wife. I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. I'll never stop saying it. I've written my recounting as it comes to me, either as a live moment or memory of the past. Such was its nature, the angel, to divine all times, all tenses. I hope this warns whoever is reading this, for though I am grateful for its intervention, I pray no other soul ever has to witness the manifestations of the leopard angel. Correct your futures now, lest you wake in the night to find your loved ones dead and your clock read 64:36.